I love behind the scenes content. It's just so cool seeing how something is thought of, the creation process, how concepts grow, develop, or get thrown in the garbage, and just seeing the end product is just so interesting. However, today I'll be talking about TV show pilots. Now, if you're unaware what a TV show pilot is, basically an early episode of a TV show to pitch to executives of a company, and if successful, will be aired, usually with more refinements, better animation, and more story details. Now, in today's video, I'll be talking about 5 TV show pilots to some of my favorite shows, as it would be pretty weird if I talked about shows I just didn't know anything about. I know I can include a whole bunch of cartoon pilots alone, not even including live action stuff, but these are just the ones I want to talk about. And also, shut up, it's my channel. By the way, I know people have talked about these pilots before, but look, I'm new here, okay? I don't decide when I'm born. Now, the first one we'll be talking about today is the Gravity Falls pilot. And the most jarring thing about this pilot is certainly the art style. It's just so different. Like, look at Grunkle Stan. Why would they do this to him? Yeah, I'm very glad they changed the art style. To me, this looks like cheap 2010's kids show animation, which to me, I just don't think that exactly fits with Gravity Falls, especially with its iconic humor. I mean, I do believe Alex Hirsch animated this episode alone, and if he did, this looks very impressive. Still, no offense, Alex, but no. Also, it's only 12 minutes long instead of Gravity Falls' usual 22-minute long episodes. That's usually a trend between these pilots. I do like how Disney still included the Sasquatch though. Despite them having different looks, the characterization for all the characters are very similar, if not the exact same. Dipper and Mabel feel like the same Dipper and Mabel from the pilot, and essentially the Dipper and Mabel for the rest of the show. I say Coco's more like stupid and more of a naive goofball, instead of actively committing crimes for selfish needs and secretly knowing more than he does. That change creates more mystery and gets him involved right from the start. Anyways, there are no journals in this one, which is like really weird to me. I mean, that's like the main part of Gravity Falls. I guess Dipper does have this journal, but like he just has it with no introduction at all. Dipper goes through an entire scene of finding the journals and really starts the mystery of the show. But without it, it just kind of feels empty. I mean, I guess the journal got burnt up in the end anyways, but shh. Also, another thing. Where the f*** is Seuss and Wendy? Well, okay, Wendy's barely in Gravity Falls itself anyways, but like, what about Seuss? Like, why? I mean, Seuss was apparently based off Alex Hirsch's best friend. Yeah, if you weren't aware, many Gravity Falls characters are based off Alex Hirsch's childhood. And then Wendy.
Everyone poured the coolest person they knew into a pot, and Wendy was born.
Alex, what about the other?
It's just kind of odd Seuss wasn't there from the beginning, despite knowing this fact, however.
What's the #1 problem with most monster hunts?
Your side character, you die in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Also has a very different ending with meeting Lemongrab Blendon. The Gnome King. We shouldn't mention him, should we? Sorry. Anyways, I guess they do this because animation is expensive, but I do like the new climactic climax. Wow, it's almost like that one is the refined and perfected version. Also just abruptly ends. Like the gnomes turn to stone, Dipper and Mabel reconcile, and Grunkle Stan is a zombie, and that's it. Not even the cold finish of Grunkle Stan's secret, it just ends. Kind of leaves a downer note to end off, being honest. Something I like to mention is that all the voice actors are the same from this pilot to the actual show. I mean, maybe because, like I said before, Wendy and Seuss aren't here. You know, how I think about it, perhaps Alex just did the voice of Grunkle Stan as a placeholder, but then just liked it so much that he just went with it. So yeah, honestly, my least favorite out of all these pilots. That's a great start to this video. Not exactly bad, but just everything feels off. Probably because of its art style, or just the humor not always sticking the landing, or just having less humor. Not exactly bad, but not particularly good either. Alright, next is Amphibia. So I'm gonna be frankly honest, I've only seen the first season of Amphibia. I mean, I just need Amphibia for the Disney Channel show trilogy of Gravity Falls, Amphibia, and the Owl House. This pilot is also in storyboards instead of being fully animated. Obviously, the first massive change is, well, the name of the show. It was originally called Amphibiland, which, granted, yeah, Amphibia is a much better name. It's shorter, more concise, and it's just a better name for a world. I guess Gravity Falls is the name of its location, and the Owl House is literally named after the house. So
You're telling us there's a whole world of talking frogs called Amphibiland?
It's actually called Amphibia.
So immediately just starts with Anne, Sasha, and Marcy opening up the Calamity Box and accidentally traveling to the world of Amphibia. Anne scares the frog people of Waltwood, gets taken in by the Plantids all before the first 2 minutes of the episode. It's actually very similar to Gravity Falls, first 2 minutes, or like after the intro. That's probably why they changed Amphibia's intro into 11 minutes instead of 2 minutes, just to differentiate Gravity Falls and Amphibia. This pilot is actually a weird combination between the first two 11-minute episodes smushed together into a single 15-minute episode. I think having both of those episodes be 11 minutes each really just shows the pacing of Amphibia instead of just smushing it all together, like what Disney did to the other show. Sprig's voice actor was actually changed and was originally Gideon's voice, aka the creator of Flapjack.
Well, since I pretty much spend all my time working, I've had to make my own friends. Me and Carson have been pals for years.
That's actually ironic as Gideon's dad voices the mayor. It's kind of funny how Gideon lost to his own dad.
All right, Sprig, tongue him! Tongue him? I hardly know him.
The main conflict of this episode is the giant fire-breathing chicken, which though isn't in the actual show, it is in Amphibia's intro, however. However, I feel like Anne and Sprig are kind of stupider in this episode. I guess they were like this in the first season, and they were pretty irresponsible, but they were at least comedic in that one. Most of the pilots often exaggerate and pinpoint character personalities to their base qualities, not giving any hidden themes or meaning or story, which makes sense. They can't exactly plan out the entire series from the start. And this is the pilot, so they have less time and money on their hands instead of like a regular episode. This one almost feels like they desaturate all the character personalities until they barely feel distinct. Also, Hotpot's kind of an asshole in this for some reason. I mean, I guess Hotpot is kind of mean and a little bit apathetic in some episodes, but like at least he does those things because he cares for his family. This one makes it as if he isn't a good parent, just seems to hate Anne's guts or something. Amphibia also has a shorter pilot to it, which doesn't exactly have anything to talk about, really. The only thing of interest in here is just seeing an earlier version of Amphibia in full animation, like Sprig and Hot Pop's old designs, and how Dana was still the acid rain idea for our house. Yeah, you can't hide that from me. I haven't seen as much Amphibia as the rest of the other shows, like I said before, so there's probably some things I may have missed, but that should be fine. This episode feels like a regular season 1 episode, which I guess is a good thing as it's consistent with the rest of season 1, but that's kind of the problem. It feels like a season 1 episode, just kind of average at best. That's basically the entirety of season 1 in a nutshell to me. Average at best.
Hope nothing bad ever happens to me. It's no big deal.
Alright, next up is the Owl House. This pilot is the whole reason why I made this video. I just found it randomly and saw some very interesting details in it. I wanted to talk about it basically. I'd say this pilot to me is one of the most unchanged next to like Amphibia. There's many elements of this pilot that's changed, but ultimately, it's practically the same, I would say. It's even practically the same length as all the Owl House episodes. For whatever reason, they introduced Amity in the human realm because, I don't know, I guess magic schools have a tendency to just give young, smart students extremely dangerous equipment that could ruin their world if misused, just to give them extra work. Kind of ironic how Dana Terrace criticizes Harry Potter for the magic sport, for having bullshit rules, and yet they legitimately have issues that seem really irresponsible to have.
It just invalidates all our efforts. If catching that thing is so important, why do anything else? There's no reason to watch any of the other players. That's such a stupid rule!
Also, not just a problem in the storyboard, but also a problem in the final pilot. Luz's character is odd in this episode, in my opinion. I get she's supposed to be quirky and weird in a charming sort of way, but in this episode she legit does shit that I don't think is acceptable at all. She legit sends spiders and snakes into the school and basically traumatizes kids with these pranks. I get she had to be like this, so it makes more sense why she's so attached to the boiling isles. It still just kind of feels like a dick move on her part. Also, only an issue in the storyboards, but why was Blue so affectionate for Amity? She follows her all the way to her house because she dropped her passport and wanted to give it back. That's pretty stalkerish, but I guess Dana really wanted to introduce LGBTQ representation to Disney. that is probably why Amity is in this episode. Honestly though, I don't mind at all. It gives us this great moment, which I think is just so wholesome.
Whoa. This is beautiful.
What?
Why would anyone throw this away? What? What's going on? What's gotten into you?
I just got something in my eye. Dana Terrace's character Tanella Nosa. Yep. I knew that.
Tanella Nosa? She's had a name this whole time?
I like how Lily just sends her to the Shadow Realm, like, with no hesitation at all. Actually, it is odd how Lilith is the principal of Hexside now. Once again, I get this was the pitch, so it would have been better to introduce Lilith in the pilot, but why didn't they just go to Belos's castle? Or another section of the kingdom? It just makes it seem like Hexside is a very strict and horrible place to go. Just like actual school! I mean, Hexside now isn't exactly luxurious. This is what happens when you go to detention, so... it's still kind of just odd. Actually, speaking of Lilith, she just has the powers of the Warden, or shape-shifting her body, and it feels genuinely intimidating. I kind of wish they kept this element of Lilith. Lilith at first just felt like threatening Makoto, but then she just became your average Saturday night cartoon villain that just gets beaten every encounter with the heroes. But here she seems actually terrifying. She also just turned into a back reacher, just like Marceline. Shut up, me! Stop making crossovers! Oh, okay. And then she just gets banished to another dimension, forever, being stuck, starving, and suffering to death until she asks for the sweet relief of death to consume her entire body. I'm kidding, she'll be back. Apparently dimensional travel is like just a thing every witch does, apparently. I'm not saying Lilith is a bad character. She's definitely much better in season 2 and 3.
Watching the ink dry is the best part.
But at the beginning, she's really just not that great. Like, at all. Also, Ida can just casually turn into a sentient owl creature instead of a creepy owl monster. This curse was basically Ida's whole character development. Well, outside of becoming a better parent. Also, Ida could just teleport from the marketplace to like all the way to the owl house. So why didn't she just teleport to this room to get King's crown? I'm guessing they had a reason or restriction or why, but I still think they should have just explained that. And we'll never, because this is the storyboards.
Well, we owe you one, Luce. Now let's get out of here before Lilith returns.
Ah! Oh my gosh!
Luz later uses Albert to perform magic. I think it was better for Luz to use glyphs, as there's no roundabout way for Luz to use magic as a human. Luz performing magic kind of goes against the whole point of the show and her character, in a sense. If you thought Ida and the Owl House felt too similar to Gronkelstan and the Mystery Shack, the Owl House was apparently supposed to be closer to a shop. I know it's already a plot hole how Ida never got caught, even though she advertises her shop in broad daylight, but if she really was selling shit here, then how was she never caught, like, instantly? The message for both of these episodes are, well...
Us weirdos have to stick together, you know?
Because us weirdos have to stick together.
Which is a good message for kids, but in the final pilot, it's so on the nose. Get it? Because... Somehow the storyboards are more subtle. Like I said before, I love this wholesome scene. Ida, an outsider of society, likes Luz's drawings and connects with her weird passion. It's weirdos connecting with each other subtly, but in the final pilot, they're just random nerds in prison that are in there because they're different. I mean, Luz just says it outright. Like, subtlety? Like, what's that? I've never heard of that. It just punches you in the face again and again, just saying, do you get it? Do you get the message? Do you get it? Huh? Now? Huh? Instead of staying in the Boiling Isles willingly, she was gonna stay there forever. I mean, yeah, she really pulls an Amphibia there. Now the comparisons of both these shows are even more closer. Also, Luz staying in the Boiling Isles willingly creates a better conflict and character arc for Luz. Also, it ends with a cold finisher of Ida talking to this bird man, instead of a warm, wholesome ending of staying in a place Luz is comfortable with. Obviously, I'm gonna prefer this version as it never got built on. Well, because it's not in the final version. I wonder where this was gonna go, however. It doesn't feel like it was going to be a good side plot, but I don't know, who knows. Honestly, there's some elements here that I actually prefer than the final pilot. Kind of wish they kept these ideas, as it wouldn't exactly affect the show, and maybe even enhance it in some ways. I guess Lilith being intimidating would be something changed throughout the whole show. This was set as a great pilot to watch.
Sparkle thing.
Oh, this?
Ooh.
Nope. Teach me one spell, and I'll give you your sparkle thing.
I respect your cunning, but I also hate you for it.
Alright, Adventure Time. This one actually has a lot of history to it. Now, if you're unaware, Adventure Time was originally a short film. However, it was so popular that it was turned into a TV show. Although, it took a lot of convincing as it was too weird. Also, I recently found that the show creator Pendleton Ward is great friends with Alex Hirsch, which is just awesome. Actually, Dana used to be a storyboard artist on Gravity Falls, and Matt Braley also worked on Gulf War and made Amphibia. He even referenced Gravity Falls in the Wax Museum. Is everyone connected to Alex Hirsch? The film was originally called Penn, probably because it's short for Pendleton Ward, or it's just a coincidence, who knows. Alright, by the way, I won't be referring to this guy as Penn, I'll be still referring to him as Finn. Also, seems like a tendency for all the pilots, but everyone except for Jake is voiced by someone else. More particularly, Finn in this pilot is actually voiced by Zach Shada.
I like it.
Since I'm assuming his voice got lower, his younger brother voices Finn in the actual show for his even lower voice. I like how they don't establish a home for Finn and Jake, they just sleep in an empty grassland. Also, Lady Raidercorn seemingly speaks gibberish now instead of Korean. I'm not sure why they changed it, maybe to make more connections to the land of Oo and Earth, I don't know. Jake is still able to communicate with her, which is weird in this episode. I mean, Finn tries to talk to her but can't understand her, and yet Jake could talk to her this entire time. So why didn't he just translate what she's saying, or just speak back to her? I guess Jake's brain was not braining that moment.
I can fit, I just need to...
Hurry! I just need to...
Ice King and Princess Bubblegum's personalities are basically turned into their very basic forms. Princess Bubblegum doesn't express her enthusiasm for science, and Ice King doesn't foreshadow any of his past. It's just the evil villain kidnaps the damsel in distress trope.
I lost one in a box turtle once. Also, I used to be dead. Ah!
One of the weirdest things they kept was the realistic depiction of fucking Abraham Lincoln. I like how they still found a way to keep him in, you know? Pretty typical for these pilots not to have a fluid or refined animation, as, well, they don't have the budget or time for that. Surprisingly though, the fight scene between Ice King and Finn is very fluid, and I kinda wish Adventure Time had more scenes like this. It's very much like the Owl House when they just randomly pop the off for some reason. This pilot is very fun, but doesn't really match up with the rest of the show in a sense. It doesn't have its story converted into a different episode. It's very much the general premise of the show into a pilot. Finn and Jake having fun, doing nothing, something drives the plot, Ice King doing something bad like kidnapping Princess Bubblegum, they rescue her, the end, yay. I don't really know if I like it or not, because having it being very generic probably helps people to get into the show. But also Adventure Time is actually not often like this. There are a few episodes like this, but generally it's more of an anthology show with many different plots and arcs. It's a very cute short film, however, which apparently wasn't even supposed to be a show. It was just made as a very cute short, and I think it achieves that. If there's a pilot you should watch after this video, it's certainly this one.
Whoa! Also you, but mostly
Alright, next is Avatar's unaired pilot. Now this pilot is very much the weirdest out of all of these. It's not an introduction pilot or the first episode, as it's very much obvious it's supposed to be the pitch. Due to this, it skips a few episodes and acts like a filler episode of season 1. It doesn't even have an overarching concept. It's just your basic Team Avatar just gets hunted by the Fire Nation sort of episodes.
And he's not my boyfriend.
The iconic intro. No, not that one. No, definitely not that one. No, get that out of here. How did you even mess that up? It's not even that funny. Okay, there we go, finally. It is much less impactful and grand per se. It's more relaxed, simple, and does take its time, which can work in a good way. But it would definitely not work for a TV show intro. It's like 1.5 minutes long. That's just way too long for an intro. I like how this Pokemon looking ass creature appears in this episode, even if it was briefly. I mean, I know showrunners planned this whole show long before time had a name, but it's just cool to see ideas reused in a different context. Sokka is kind of an asshole in this episode. Again, he's kind of like this in season 1, but first, they made him way more comedic in the actual show. And secondly, he was more distrustful and cautious, not just putting anyone down like in the pilot. Here, he just seems to just hate anything that Katara or Aang does. It doesn't really make him likable or reasonable like at all. It just makes him kind of a jerk throughout the entire thing. Katara was originally named Kaya, which later became her mother's name. I find it odd why Katara sits Aang down and acts like he's helpless and way too important. His tone was just kind of stupid. This was never something they did in the show. It doesn't even make any sense. Aang is their most skilled bender, and though he's a porter, he could just defend himself. Katara is still learning how to waterbend herself. She's like, you're the Avatar, start acting like it. But like, how? Sitting on the sidelines and not doing anything? Yeah, that's really saving the world there, isn't it? I don't get what she was thinking there. But there was no way Katara alone was gonna face Zuko and his small crew and manage to make it out alive, right? Yeah, no, she gets caught immediately. Yeah, good job!
If that's the case, shouldn't I be using my skills to help?
Yeah, I get you, man. Zuko's characterization is very much the season 1 self, which is fine. There's no Iroh though, which I find odd. I thought they would need a mentor-like character to help guide Zuko throughout his redemption arc, as they would surely plan that out, right? This whole show was planned for a long time and would probably need a character like Iroh for Zuko's character arc to actually work.
What's wrong?
It's complicated. I have to go.
Also, Zuko just gets a random bird. I guess this is Zuko's Momo? Or maybe this is Iroh. Also, this is a nitpick, but like, why does the Fire Nation have fire hoses? Firstly, I don't think this time period would even have fire hoses, but I don't know my history. Maybe it's... And secondly, this will make any attack by any waterbender the easiest fight ever. Can't the firebenders just move or extinguish the fire themselves? I don't get it. Honestly, the animation for fight scenes in these pilots fucking pop off for some reason. This looks great and kind of wish fight scenes were more similar to this.
Search the island. He's probably hiding under a rock.
Aang just casually uses the Avatar state in this fight. They may have thought this is being used more often, but I prefer the Avatar state being only used for a few times. It just makes it feel more special and more powerful than just being used to end battles. I like how they show Aang still being a pacifist and save Zuko from dying, maybe hinting to the Blue Spirit episode, kinda, not really, no, okay. Katara narrates at the end of this, which may imply she does more of this in the show, or it just parallels the beginning narration. Of course, M. Night Shyamalan had to copy this for his film. I'm actually gonna suggest overanalyzing this video about the pilot. He obviously talked about it more because that video is like 20 minutes long and I gotta talk about 5 pilots in the same amount of time. So, this pilot is so similar to the rest of the show, and yet it's just different enough to be slightly off. Animation is very close aside from the character designs. All the characterization seems too extreme, and the lore is just kinda odd. This barely even meets the quality of season 1 Avatar to me. It's pretty underwhelming and kind of disappointing for one of the greatest shows ever. Seeing all these pilots is like watching a bizarro realm where all these shows turn out very differently. Some for the better and some for the worst. Ultimately, these pilots aren't as good as the final version. No duh. But that's fine. They don't have to be. It's just cool to see how ideas are used, reformed, or discarded. It's just interesting what something could have been. However, I would have liked to see a few of these concepts implemented in the final version actually. So, yeah. I hope you enjoy my ramblings about unfinished versions of episodes. I'm pretty sure I already made a joke about this, but yeah, Willow does actually make a brief appearance in the Hex side for the Outhouse pilot, which is pretty neat detail. Also, I've been saying Matt Brawley's name wrong. It's Matt Brawley, not Matt Brayley Ryan. I of course had to know that after I've made the Amphibia section, and I'm not going to re-record the entire thing just so I can pronounce it better. If you know, I'm pretty sure in 2020 that for some reason there's a Call Me Maybe parody of by Mabel called Me Mabel. I'll put a link in the description or something. I don't know, but like it is one of the best things 2020 has made next to Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition and Among Us memes, and like it's amazing. There's not anything else I can add. I mean, I can't really find anything else. I mean, can someone send me Marcy's journal? Like, I would like that, please. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and see you later.